Greek theater, please welcome the fraternities and sororities of the National Pan-Hellenic Council, affectionately known by colleges and universities across the country as the Divine Nine. Collectively, they represent more than 100 years of unique brotherhood and sisterhood, with a rich history and legacy of service that stretches far beyond the college yard. Today, they are here to celebrate the freedom of Juneteenth. The Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, 1906. The Ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, 1908. The Brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, 1911. The Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, 1911. The Ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, 1913. The Brothers of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, 1914. The Ladies of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, 1920. The Ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, 1922. The Brothers of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, 1963. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the National Pan-Hellenic Council, also known as the Divine Nine.
Represent
For more than a century, Black Greek organizations have made their voices heard on college campuses and in communities across the country.
Well, the founders of these organizations, they understood that the pathway forward for us was together through unity.
Moments like that, shared by many in the Divine Nine, the 9 Black sororities and fraternities that comprise the National Pan-Hellenic Council. Vice President Kamala Harris has been outspoken about the impact her sorority has had on her.
And along the way, you find people who help you become your true self. For me, that was my beloved Alpha Kappa Alpha sisters.
And don't be fooled. Though everyone may not always wear their letters or broadcast their acts of service,
that work behind the scenes is very serious, and they are committed. And it's some people that you wouldn't even know that are part of sororities or fraternities that are part of very big decisions, very big just trends and monumental changes that are happening.
Because we have a love for our community.
As long as there is injustice, as long as there is a need to mentor, as long as there is a need to uplift the African Americans, there is a need for Alpha Phi Alpha.
A challenge that many of us face when dealing with this world is how we accept many practices and mindsets that have been in our communities long before we were even born or our parents or our grandparents were born. We accept many things that we feel are just a part of our history and our culture, and therefore we take the position that these things shouldn't be ridiculed or even questioned. What we do is engage in a practice of accepting many different things in ignorance, and that is an extremely dangerous habit. Moving in ignorance is one of the major reasons why people are so easily trapped in the matrix. We just accept things because it's what we know. We don't know much about it, but because they have history and wide validation for many, we just accept it. And now, unfortunately, there are so many different parts to our modern lives that we just blindly accept, even though we really don't know much about them and what the risk or compromises may be. I talk about many different topics in this ministry, and because people can be so confounded and distracted by race or skin color, many people often miss the point that I'm trying to make and the reason why I'm bringing these subjects up. This subject right here is not about race, but it is about deception that runs in a particular community that is defined by a race. I did not set up this world, and I did not make these divisions, so please do not fight against me for bringing these topics up. This particular subject is a major part of how Satan has been able to overcome the people in my community as well as every other community in the world. How many of us attach ourselves to the dream of Michael King without really even understanding the things that he was a part of? There is deception here. And the thing is that if these things are not exposed, we allow Satan to run freely without exposure. And me personally, I'm not for it. This topic must be exposed. Too many people I personally know are influenced by it. Too many people have family members or significant others, people that they're trying to bring out of these organizations and from this influence, but they can't formulate the right words to say to it. This all needs to be exposed so everyone can understand the truth. Now, for you, if you feel this is not for you and you cannot find value out of this information, then please move on. I again want to be clear that this is not a black issue, but a worldwide issue. I promise you that there are many that have been exposed to this, and this information will do a great deal to bring clarity for many and help them gain the strength and wisdom to recognize the trappings of Satan and how he was allowed to enter into what we call the black community in America. So with all that out the way, let me introduce you to this topic. As a majority, we have probably heard conspiracy theories about secret societies. There is no limit to the chatter about many groups like the Freemasons, Bilderberg, the Jesuits, Skull and Bones, etc. Many people have heard of these groups, but most don't know a thing about them and if they really matter or not. I assure you that they do, but speaking about all of them will take me places for time's sakes I cannot go. I've spoken about these topics before. Anyways, the point I'm making is that the fact that there are secret societies is not very secret. It's more secret about what these groups believe in and why they exist in the first place. The point that I'm getting at is that we've heard of secret societies and that they exist. And with that understanding, one thing I don't think that is well known is the existence of black secret societies. Let me be clear that I don't like referring to this segment of the population as black people, but for time's sake, this is how I will refer to the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade in America. So yeah, people don't think about black secret societies because it is well known that over the course of history in the United States, power has never been truly given to the black community. This is why we saw the civil rights era and even no campaigns like the deceptive Black Lives Matter. It's because there was no power in the community. So I know, it kind of sounds odd to hear of black secret societies. When I first was exposed to it, it kind of threw me off. Because what is the deal with them? If there is power in those other white secret societies, that should mean that there is power in the black ones as well, right? The answer is a clear yes, but it's too deep to discuss right now. The fact I'm getting to is that black secret societies do exist, and it has been the primary way of access Satan has had in order to infiltrate the black community in America. Because they're secret, it was a good reason why the infiltration was able to occur. Nobody knew certain men and women in their communities were compromised. So when we saw them, we looked at their status and their rise that we thought that was based upon education and hard work, never really realizing that they sold out in order to sell us out. I've gone over these black secret societies in other videos. I spoke directly about Prince Hall Freemasonry, and I spoke directly about the Black Boule. Two topics that are extremely important if you want to understand these black secret societies. Again, please know that the secret is not that they exist, but the secret is what they actually do and what they believe in and what they practice. But here's the thing. While those organizations are known for keeping secrets, and they are the source of power in the secular black community, what goes very overlooked is the recruitment tool that's used for these secret societies like the Black Boule. In the black community, the majority of us know about these black collegiate Greek fraternities and sororities. I'm talking about the Alphas, the AKAs, the Kappas, the Deltas, the Omegas, etc. But though we know about them, we know very little about the first black Greek fraternity, the Black Boule, Sigma Pi Phi. This is the first black Greek fraternity in the country, the first pillar of black history after Prince Hall Freemasonry in the black community. But I guarantee if you surveyed a majority of black Americans, they wouldn't be able to tell you much about this group. Most people don't even know that they exist. This is true because, again, like I was saying, there are black secret societies and they hold power in the black community. Most of the prominent black men in the black community are Boule and they're proud of it. which is why LeBron James tattooed their symbol on his body. It's right in plain sight, but because we operate in ignorance without knowledge, it is seen but not known or understood. But listen, this subject is not about the Boule. The point is that in order for the secret society of the Boule to function, to grow, and to operate, they needed a way of recruitment so they can continue to grow throughout our generations without the masses knowing. And their most primary recruitment tool are the Black collegiate Greek fraternities that were formed after Sigma Pi Phi came into existence. The Black Boule is a postgraduate, after college, professional organization that they established and accomplished Negroes were secretly a part of, but the way that they kept their membership growing is they formed these minor Black collegiate Greek organizations that they always could gather and recruit the talent that they desired. You won't find a Black Boule member that was not already part of the Greek collegiate fraternities. Most people think these fraternities and sororities are just part of our history. They feel that they were a way that Black people formed camaraderie in order to combat oppression and segregation. And don't get me wrong, they definitely are, but they are so much more than that. These organizations were established in order to ensure that Satan had access to the Black community in order to further his goals. If you or anyone you know is a part of the Greek fraternities and sororities, you've taken oaths, you performed their rituals, and you have not repented and denounced your participation with them, you have an extreme problem on your hands when you stand before the Most High. Some of you know this deep down inside, or some of you want to deny it because you still go to church and call on Jesus in your frat or sorority. So you probably want to ignore me and write me off saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. If you actually listen to what I have to say in full, that thought will be proven wrong. It's time that we all understand the Black collegiate Greek fraternities and sororities known as the Divine Nine. Let's begin. Okay, so before I jump right into the Divine Nine, I want to make sure I lay the foundation for this understanding. I do not have the time to go over many specifics, but I'm going to treat you who is watching this as if you have not watched my video about Prince Hall Freemasonry and the other on the Boule. So if that's true, you may not completely understand these organizations, and you really can't understand the Divine Nine without understanding the foundations that were laid before them. The Divine Nine are entry-level access points that assist with recruitment, and if you lack understanding on these other institutions that were built before them, you may not understand the issue in this subject. I'm sure many are not aware that in Black America, since the ending of the Civil War, Freemasonry was used as a tool for cultural improvement and advancement. It is what Blacks in America clung to as a source of equality, freedom, and justice. There would be no civil rights movement in America without Freemasonry. And maybe your initial thought is to cheer them on for that. But what if these goals and movements were less about equality and freedom and more about rebellion, walking away from our Creator and introducing a different form of slavery? We'll get to that. Either way, like I said earlier, the story of Black America cannot be accurately and fully told without recording the impact that Prince Hall Freemasonry had upon Black society. Behind nearly every pivotal turn in the history of Black America, Prince Hall Freemasons can be found, especially in the Black church. The foundation of Prince Hall Freemasonry was laid between 1775 and 1847. On March 6, 1775, 15 civilians were initiated in the Freemason Grand Lodge of Ireland, Lodge number 441, which had a lodge chartered in Boston, Massachusetts. These 15 were Black men from the Boston area. One of them was named Prince Hall. Now, this is important to understand and note. It wasn't the American Freemasons who initiated these men, but the lodges in England. In 1776, and always note this year because many different things happened in this year. During the War for Independence between America and England, these 15 Black men, including Prince Hall, formed themselves into a lodge which was called African Lodge Number 1, under the leadership of Prince Hall. African Lodge under the leadership of Prince Hall was held in high regard in the general community, aside from the racists who opposed them because of their color and their race. The lodge was particularly attractive to leaders in the Black community. It showed a different type of Black man that was not seen in this country before then. Hall established 2 new lodges, one in Providence, Rhode Island, and the other in Philadelphia. I want you to remember Philadelphia because they are important when we get to the Boule. There's a lot of details on how they grew and spread their membership around the country, but right now those details are inconsequential. They grew and gathered black men into their Masonic traditions. The slavery to freedom age, which was from 1800 to 1876, was crucial to the journey of Black America, and again, Prince Hall Freemasonry. And Prince Hall Freemasons served at the core of this struggle. The founding of many universities and mutual aid societies for blacks, financial institutions, the gaining of political power, the Underground Railroad, the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, all were directly influenced by Freemasons. Moving up in time, a subject that black people love to discuss is Black Wall Street. Now don't get me wrong, what happened to them was a tragedy. But you should know that Prince Hall Freemasonry was very strong there. You cannot leave them out of the conversation when speaking of the black experience in America. Okay, so through this time period of the early 1800s, slavery, the Civil War, Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction, Southern white supremacy, through all of that, Prince Hall Freemasonry spread and solidified. By the beginning of the 20th century, the year 1900, there was either a Prince Hall Grand Lodge or a charter lodge operating in nearly every northern and southern state, and also some western territories and states. And all that is important to know if you want to understand Black America. There are a lot more details to the subject, but I speak on this more in depth in the video dedicated to that topic. It's just important to understand the foundation. The power in the Black community started with the Prince Hall Masons. This understanding needs to be established for everyone. Now let's move on. Within the ranks of the Masons were an educated bourgeois class of black men that looked at themselves as elite compared to the rest of the other Masons. They wanted to be separated and distinguished from all the other Masons. And the ruling class of America, those elite families that are still the unseen hand of this world, they needed a source of recruitable Negroes to assist them with their plan to assimilate the Negroes into this new world that they were building. So there was a subsection of the underground world of Negroes that was made to be the gatekeepers of Black America. On their website, and yes, they do have a website, they say this about themselves. Sigma Pi Phi fraternity is also known as the Boule, which in ancient Greece was a council of chiefs. The meaning of the word Sigma Pi Phi, the titles given to its members and their wives, its officers, and the names of its local units are derived from Greek history and tradition as well. In its early years, Sigma Pi Phi could be viewed as a secret organization that consciously avoided publicity. It was not until 1982 that the fraternity adopted a policy of limited and selected publicity. Although no longer secret today, it can be described as a fraternity that exists with little fanfare and one that actively seeks to improve the lives of the citizens in the communities in which the members are associated through its social action and public policy programs and initiatives. I just want you to get that right there. It wasn't until 1982, almost 80 years since the organization existed, that they decided to let people know that they were actually there, and their policy was very limited and very selected. So it's no mystery why many of us never heard of them. But let's keep going. From its founding in 1904, with 6 members in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Sigma Pi Phi fraternity has deliberately grown slowly, as the emphasis has always been on quality and not quantity. Yet it currently has nearly 5,000 active members who are affiliated with 134 member Boules in cities across the breadth of this nation and in Nassau, the Bahamas, and London, the United Kingdom. It has welcomed and continues to welcome into its fraternal bond some of the most distinguished men in the world. Its members have included such men as W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, Martin Luther King Jr., Benjamin E. Mays, Ralph J. Bunche, James Weldon Johnson, Charles R. Drew, Daniel Hale Williams, Percy L. Julian, Charles H. Wesley, Oliver W. Hill, Paul R. Williams, John Hope Franklin, Leon Higginbotham, Ulysses K., Arna Bontemps, Arthur Ashe, David H. Blackwell, Robert C. Weaver, Ronald H. Brown, and the list goes on and on. Its past, as well as its present members, have been and are leaders in the struggle for civil rights, social justice, economic and educational equality, and in the implementation of public policy and healthcare initiatives that aid our underserved communities. Now, they apparently took it off their website, but in Prince Hall Mason and Boule member Charles Wesley's book, History of Sigma Pi Phi, when speaking about the founder, Henry Minton, Wesley writes this about Minton. His dream and ambition were to organize a Greek letter fraternity and to have its members not to be selected on the basis of brains alone, but in addition to congeniality, culture, and good fellowship, that they should have behind them a record of accomplishment, not merely be men of promise and good education. In summary, Minton wanted to create an organization which would partake, in his own words, of the tenets of Skull and Bones at Yale and Phi Beta Kappa.
Yeah, so you can see now in this age of information why they would have removed that from their site. If you remember, Skull and Bones was a secret society that both George Bush and John Kerry claimed to be part of in the 2004 presidential election.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets. There are all kinds of secrets.
They were in the same secret society, but could not tell us anything about it.
Wikipedia says this about that secret society. And no, Wikipedia should never be your first source of information, but it's a good quote. Skull and Bones, also known as the Order 322, or the Brotherhood of Death, is an undergraduate senior secret student society at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. It is one of the big three societies at Yale, the other two being Scroll and Key and Wolf's Head Society. Now, for this discussion, we don't need to know much more, but understanding the underworkings of this world, it says a lot that the Boule wanted to create an organization that partakes in the tenets of the Brotherhood of Death. Minton's ambitions drove him to take leadership in the creation of a fraternity among men of like ideals and attributes, and to build an affiliation of selected college men who had made achievements in their careers and their community. And this is when Sigma Pi Phi was created. Now, like I said, that's what the book says. I believe he was actually approached and given an opportunity by white Masons outside of Prince Hall. And they gave him the opportunity to distinguish himself from the other Prince Hall Masons. Now, there's obviously no record of this, so I can't speak this as fact, but based on how I've seen them work in this world, this makes sense to me. But either way, Sigma Pi Phi was created. The historic birth date of Sigma Pi Phi is May 15th, 1904. This is their Founders Day. It was at this time the concept of the Boule was formed. And again, I made separate videos on these subjects, so if you want to learn more in depth about them, please go to those videos. Those videos are on my website. This is the foundation of how Greek life started. First from Freemasonry, and for those with understanding, I know I'm leaving other organizations out like the Elks, so I'm just keeping it simple here. So first from Freemasonry, then on to Sigma Pi Phi, which was the first Black Greek organization, then on to the Divine Nine. So now we must discuss the Divine Nine. The National Pan-Hellenic Council, Inc., NPHC, also referred to as the Divine Nine, is the umbrella organization housing Black Greek letter organizations. Its member organizations include Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc., Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Inc., Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc., Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, Inc., Zeta Vi Beta Sorority, Inc., Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, Inc., and Iota Phi Theta Fraternity, Inc. Altogether, the Council's membership exceeds 1.5 million individuals around the world. When you go into the history of these organizations, they introduce this to you by explaining the struggle. This is how these organizations were validated in our minds. They frame it like this. Each of the 9 NPHC organizations evolved during a period when African Americans were being denied essential rights and privileges afforded to others. Racial isolation on predominantly white institution campuses created a need for African Americans to align themselves with other individuals sharing common goals and ideals. They explained that, with the realization of such a need, the African American Greek lettered organization movement took on the persona of a haven and outlet, which could foster brotherhood and sisterhood in the pursuit to bring about social change through the development of social programs that would create positive change for Black people and the country. And I want to be clear, I don't want to discredit the racial oppression that they faced and the challenges that they had to deal with. But their solution to this problem brought about the demise of the Black community, and it wasn't about the uplifting of it. Throughout our history, when you know who we truly are, every time our ancestors chose to assimilate rather than attach to the Most High, they were conquered. This instance here is no difference. Now, listen, we can debate over the opportunities that these organizations created, the doors that they opened, the rights we have today because of their efforts. Yeah, that's all good for the debate, and I'm sure many will want to engage in that discussion. But for time's sake, let me make sure I identify my problem, the separation, and the split. You personally may not share this perspective, and if this is not important to you, then what I will be saying later means nothing to you. But I think it's important to understand where I'm coming from with this. My perspective is one that is biblically based. I believe in the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yahuwah, the God of Yasharel. You know it better as Israel. My perspective has to do with putting him first and submitting to him. I believe fully in him and preparing for his kingdom. I do not put the secular world and his secular goals over my pursuit to follow and obey him. So many people use that pagan title of the Lord, but they truly don't make him Lord or master over their lives. My argument is that in order for a satanic New World Order to grow, Satan needed to spread his doctrine and his traditions to every tribe, tongue, and nation in order to grow in influence, so that the world can begin to follow him more than they follow Yahuwah. The Black Americans, also called African Americans, who should be better known as Hebrews, but that is another topic for another day. Don't get lost in that point, please. This group of people were enticed to spread the light of Freemasonry within the Black community, and in order for the ways of the New World Order to grow within, at that time, an extremely God-fearing, church-going, conservative community, these recruits were given status in the society so that they could have sway and influence. And you can see the evidence of this by looking at history and where at one time this community was very conservative in their values. And after basically a century, after they attached the civil rights movement and their fight for racial equality, they attached themselves to liberal values that have completely changed the fabric of the community.
Hi, I'm Reverend Al Sharpton, an American for marriage equality. As a Baptist minister, I don't have the right to impose my beliefs on anyone else. So if committed gay and lesbian couples want to marry, that's their business. None of us should stand in their way. All of us must fight for what's fair and for what's right. Join me and the majority of Americans who support marriage equality.
Turning to moralists, lawless individuals. This was a deliberate agenda by Satan, and he used these recruits in order to fulfill this goal. So let me be clear that the problem is that because these organizations were built from the foundation of satanic principles, everything about them is tainted and off. Be clear, if this organization was not built around the foundation of Luciferian doctrine, spreading false light, I would be all for a group of people who came together to build unity against oppression. Just like if Christmas wasn't a day that was made to celebrate the birth of the sun god, and they didn't tie it with worship of our Messiah with it, I would love a day to just give gifts and be together with family. But that's not the reality. And because these things are built around false satanic foundations, there is an overall problem that cannot be ignored. What I will present and show you is that the Divine Nine organizations are small recruitment tools for an overall satanic goal of a New World Order. The Divine Nine organizations were built from the influence of Freemasonry, and the doctrines, the practices, ideals of Freemasonry are spread all throughout those organizations. Those tied to these organizations who have taken oaths and performed their rituals have pledged their life to being against Yahuwah, the God of Israel. If you do not understand this statement, you might need to go back and understand Freemasonry and understand the God that they serve and whose light it is that they're spreading. Once you really understand that any organization that comes from that foundation is tainted, especially if they have incorporated many of the ways and practices that all stem from that religion of Freemasonry. What I'm trying to say is that if you believe in the Bible and you love the God of Israel, Yahuwah, and you have accepted salvation through his son whom he sent, the Messiah, Yahusha, then you must repent and turn away from the oaths you have accepted and all the influence you have received from them indirectly through these Divine Nine organizations. And I'm about to present you with why. The God of Israel said, I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. That's Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 through 6. You see, he's a jealous God and does not want us to worship anyone or anything more than him. He wants our full attention. He wants our full worship. He does not want and he will not allow us to worship him and worship Satan together. Yahusha the Messiah said, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. That's John chapter 8, verse 12. If we say we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. That's 1 John chapter 1, verse 6. And it is my intention to show you that through these organizations, those initiated in them have accepted and followed after another God. They have engaged in idolatry. They are walking in darkness. They have binded themselves spiritually to the spirit/entity of that organization they have pledged allegiance to. They have entangled themselves in with the enemy. It may be hard for most to accept this if you have spent most of your life programmed by what they have told us about Black history and Black achievement, if you grow up in the church without actually reading your Bible. But I assure you that once all this is presented, then it will be made abundantly and unambiguously clear to whoever is listening with the intent to understand. I understand that there will be a majority that will defend and speak against what I'm about to present, but this is for those who truly love the God of the Bible and want to put him first. Those that want to follow him more than they follow this world. I recognize there will be a segment of you that cannot put away the world and want to have both, but you cannot. You have to make a choice on who you serve. I believe that if I at least give you enough detail, you can make an informed decision about what it is you have attached to or what it is you have been trusting and supporting. And after that information is presented, if you desire our Father's kingdom, you will denounce your attachment to these people and these organizations. You will repent and be forgiven while you still have time to do so. You need to understand why these organizations are secret. If what they were doing was pure, there would be no reason for them to hide in darkness. There would be no reason for them to hide their plans and what they've been doing and do it in secret if this was all pure. I have broken up this video into two parts. This was just the intro. If you desire to live in ignorance and you don't think you need to understand this topic, then you don't need to go on to the next video. But if you want to clearly understand the organizations of the Divine Nine and how they are tying all who are initiated and have pledged oaths to it, tying them all in darkness, binding themselves spiritually to different spirits and entities, please click this video link and move on to the next video. Either way, be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay. It's okay if you're not interested in the next video. That's your choice. Either way, thanks for watching. I pray you make Yah your priority and you submit to him. Please know, Your time is running out. Be blessed. I love you all.